The WNBA has a problem. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly bad.
Kathy Engelberg, this is what happens when you don't protect your superstar.
We were all aware that the WNBA would suffer from Caitlin Clark's absence. However, we are now beginning to see how serious the situation is. Let's face it, those pay us what you owe us teas are deteriorating like milk left in the sun. The most recent viewership figures have been released. Furthermore, the decline is not just significant but disastrous. The problem is that this extends much beyond a decline in ratings. For Kathy Engelberg and the league as a whole, the future will be considerably worse. Due to the fact that we are currently receiving fresh information regarding Caitlin's recuperation and, let's just say, the narrative that fans have been told thus far. It's not entirely accurate. This is turning out to be the largest I told you so moment in Caitlin Clark supporters' history and a nightmare for the WNBA, which is happening in real time. Let's dissect it, then. The facts, the figures, and the consequences of Caitlin's injury timeline. But first, please use the like button to wish her a speedy and complete recovery.
Y'all cannot come out there with those shirts of pay us what you owe us and then do that in the All-Star game.
The All-Star game featured more than just the players' t-shirts. Additionally, we witnessed firsthand what the WNBA might look like without Caitlin Clark. You wouldn't know it from the way the media reported it, but it wasn't pretty either. In the absence of Caitlin, the audience fell by 36%. However, ESPN used a title boasting of a triple-digit growth, cleverly drawing a comparison to 2023, the year Caitlin Clark didn't even enter the league. They genuinely believed that no one would notice. It backfired instead. Streary effect in its classic form, the impact was even more noticeable because of their rotation. Together with the pay us what you owe us shirts and the underwhelming on-court performance, the players not only suffered a PR setback, but were also publicly ridiculed. The kicker is this, though. It wasn't the bottom. Since Caitlin and Angel Ree were both sidelined in the most recent Fever Sky game, we finally have the numbers. Additionally, the drop-off from their first game is just stunning.
Let's take a look right here. First time these two teams matched up this season. 2.7 million average views on ABC. Peaked with 3.1 million viewers. Up 115% versus last year's season average on ABC.
The WNBA chose to schedule 5 head-to-head games with the Fever this season despite the fact that Caitlin and the team made significant progress in 2024 and the Sky were moving in the opposite direction. An amazing ratings bonanza for the first one, millions of people watched. But the free fall started as soon as Caitlin fell. 2.7 million people watched the first match, 1.9 million saw the rematch, and then only 1.5 million watched their third encounter. With every game, a smaller portion of the audience leaves. And it has now dropped considerably lower.
1.31 million? We have officially regressed. We have went way backwards, which is slightly above the average national TV viewership for Fever games this year. But it also is the least watched of the 8 Chicago and Indiana games since 2024.
Yes, exactly. The most recent Fever Sky game is only seen by 1.3 million people. And while that could appear respectable on its own, it's a catastrophe when taken into account. That represents a more than 50% drop in attendance, with 1.4 million fewer people than attended their first gathering. To put it in perspective, the Fever's preseason exhibition matchup with the Brazilian national team attracted 1.3 million spectators. The actual kicker is right here. These aren't your typical Fever Sky games. These are meant to be the WNBA's most anticipated games, the main event that casual fans truly look forward to all day.
The WNBA has a problem. Because it seems with Caitlin Clark out, not only are the Indiana Fever games losing their steam, not only is the marquee matchup against the Chicago Sky losing its steam, that's the marquee matchup this league has to offer casual fans. You go up to anybody in the streets, name 2 WNBA players. One is always going to be Caitlin Clark, and the second is usually going to be Angel Reese. Maybe you'll get a Sabrina, maybe. but usually it's going to be those two.
Yes, these games against the faltering sky have been a blessing for the Fever. They have improved Indiana's chances of qualifying for the playoffs by padding the win column. Beyond that, however, it is hard to deny reality. The millions of casual viewers who tuned in specifically for Caitlin Clark are waiting for her to return. And that brings up a query that the league most likely doesn't want anyone to ask. Does that explain the ambiguity of Caitlin's injury updates? Why does it seem like something is being held back in every status update? As you look at it more closely, it seems less transparent and more like they're attempting to maintain hope for TV ratings, ticket sales, and everything else.
1.4 million people checked out. That's not a trend that the WNBA is excited about. That's a trend that Kathy Engelbert would say, hey, Fever, hey, Lynn Dunn, hey, Kelly, hey, Amber, can you guys start dangling that Caitlin Clark return like you used to do? You know, before Caitlin Clark gave a statement and you guys were hands off. Can you guys, just string them along a little bit more? We want to get these ratings back up.
Recently, Caitlin's name has been next to the game time choice, but Stephanie White has now turned around and acknowledged that she hasn't even completed all of her practices. Consider what that accomplishes, and I'll get to her real status shortly. Fans continue to hope that she will suit up because it raises just enough doubts. Because many would cancel their tickets or postpone already scheduled travels if they knew for sure Caitlin was absent, costing teams and local businesses millions. And you'll see why they might use that card when you look at the next league-wide ratings. The truth is straightforward. No interest, Caitlin.
Sun vs. Aces Sunday, 180,000 views. Dream vs. Mercury Sunday, 160,000 views. Now, if the growth is as substantial as the ladies in the Players Association want you to believe, if the growth is as big as the ladies in the WNBA Players Association want you to believe, as the old guard wants you to believe, these 180s, these 160s would be at least 300,000. At least 300,000 on NBA TV, right?
In other words, these are unmatched figures and not what the league would prefer. Let's discuss about 160,000 people. It's cruel, even for NBA TV. Pick one, Paige or Angel. They're all unable to fill their respective arenas. Furthermore, the structures are 2 or 3 times smaller than an NBA arena. It's not a dispute at this time. The WNBA's reliance on Caitlin Clark is more than just evident, as evidenced by the All-Star Game disaster and these league-wide viewing craters. It is yelling under neon lights. Her supporters, casual sports fans, and commentators are all venting on the league for precisely that reason, with Commissioner Kathy Engelbert bearing the brunt of the criticism.
Kathy Engelbert, this is what happens when you don't protect your superstar. This is what happens when you don't protect your cash cow. This is what happens when you allow gambling to run rampant in your league. I just had to throw that in there because that's what's taking place. This is what happens when you have referees call fouls one way for one individual and not the other way for the other individual. If Caitlin Clark had the same whistle that Paige Beckers had, Caitlin Clark would still be playing till this day. The Indiana Fever would be a top three seed right now.
In spite of coaches, experts, and even elite players pleading for change, Kathy Engelbert has been under fire for her refusal to improve the officiating. They only want stability, nothing more. Call the blatant fouls. Keep the players who are genuinely generating interest safe. The references will do it for other people, but not for Caitlin or anyone else who has the fever. Just hear Sophie Cunningham discuss the celebrity cries Paige Beckers receives.
I love Paige to death. Do not get me wrong. I think, I think she's a hell of a player and, would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. You literally couldn't touch her. Couldn't touch her. And that shit is so annoying to me. And if you're going to do that, then give it to our guards. I just hate the inconsistencies. Or we know she's a good rookie and, she's going to get some whistles. But, to get the treatment she got last night was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Falls.
Well, she's gonna be one of those players that she's already gonna be a GOAT. She's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Everyone knows that she's freaking hell of a player. But getting some of those whistles already, oh my, I couldn't.
The season's black eye was the Connecticut Sun game. The most obvious and well-recognized indication of the misuse the league has only given Caitlin a smack on the wrist when she takes the court. When the league's numbers plummet without Caitlyn, it's precisely the kind of thing that causes her supporters to shrug. A lot of people will tell you, if she's out, I'm out. Because the criticisms are always the same when Caitlyn isn't in the lineup. It moves slowly. It's stale. It's dull.
Between the two rivals, I can tell you a big problem right now. Watchability. These games are not fun to watch right now. And honestly, some of the games with Caitlin Clark were not fun to watch. We were talking about this the other day, and Stephanie White, her offensive style, that basketball's play style, it's much harder to watch on TV than Christy Sides was. I'm just being honest. It's not nearly as entertaining of basketball as we saw last year.
We've now reached a stage where the WNBA's situation could get out of control. According to the most recent information, Caitlyn's condition is not exactly what the league had hoped for. She may appear okay in a few social media clips, even when she is kicking a soccer ball casually, but being in game form and looking good are two very different things. It appears that she is far from prepared. This implies that this absence may extend beyond a few more games. Weeks, or perhaps the remainder of the regular season could pass. Additionally, the league's top attraction is confined to the sidelines each and every day she is absent. Alongside her, the buzz, attendance, and viewership are also declining.
Scott Agnes is one of the people named in Christine Brennan's book as basically an in-the-know person that is around the team, so she knows more than we do. And someone said, just can't wait till Cece's back. She's the most dynamic electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi. Have patience at least several more weeks. So everyone's kind of expecting the 22nd as a return, because they're playing, I think that they play on like the 18th and the 22nd. They have a 4-day break. I think everyone's expecting the 22nd as a return. Like several more weeks and you're into the playoffs. Like Stephanie White was saying that she's not done anything with the team. Like she's not even shooting around with the team.
Scott Agnes is with the squad every day and is very well connected, even if I don't like that he calls some Caitlin Clark fans the dark side. According to him, Caitlin will be absent for a few weeks. Furthermore, let's face it, many does not equate to 1 or 2. That is a minimum of 3. This is the issue. We are nearing the end of the season. In less than a month, the regular season comes to an end. Additionally, Stephanie White has acknowledged that Caitlyn isn't even yet in full practice. Fans and analysts are now making connections between the dots. Additionally, a lot of people are beginning to believe the inconceivable. It's possible that Caitlin Clark is finished for the year.
If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for at minimum a week. At the minimum, she needs to be doing everything in practice for at least a week before you throw her back in the mix. Now you're going to throw her back in the mix when all of these teams are at peak condition, and we already know what happens when Caitlin Clark gets back out on the court. Teams play defense on her differently. They play extra physical with her. There's all of these different factors that come into play. That's why I'm sort of leaning to the point of maybe Caitlin should be out for the rest of the season. Maybe this season is just done for her. Maybe it doesn't make sense for her to come back into the mix if the Fever aren't contenders. Are the Fever contenders at this point? I'm just not so sure. Do you risk another injury that can again compound and turn into something else down the line?
If you watched Caitlyn's interview with Sue Bird, you saw that she candidly acknowledged something revealing. The supporters put pressure on her to perform. Additionally, she hurried back before she was ready the prior time due to pressure. Her mother intervened this time with an alternative message. Reduce your speed. You've already given the league, your team, and the supporters your all. Now is the moment to prioritize yourself. And she's doing precisely that. There is currently no time frame for her return. Therefore, there is no hurrying or taking shortcuts.
So I think that's been like the hardest part, has just been like the stop and go of everything. Like, and also like with the type of injuries that I've dealt with, like there's no real, it's not like 6 weeks. All right, you're coming back for the Connecticut Sun game on August
all about how you feel in the
30th or whatever. It's like, how do you feel? Like, and even like when I have been back, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel the next day after playing, like when you're dealing with like these type of injuries.
Because of this, there's a very real chance that everyone, including the league office and the Fever, already knows that Caitlyn might be out for the remainder of the regular season, if not the entire year. They simply cannot acknowledge it, as doing so would be financially disastrous for the league and the franchise. Furthermore, the timing couldn't be more dire. The WNBA is already losing ground to the NFL preseason, college football, and even preseason games in terms of viewership. In fact, more individuals are placing bets on the colors of the rubber items that are thrown onto the court than on the actual games. It's bad news for players and owners alike that the league is having problems. Players will have less negotiating power in the upcoming CBA the more it becomes clear that the WNBA cannot exist without Caitlyn Clark. And for that reason, an increasing number of people think that a strike is imminent. Here's the truth, though. A strike would harm more than just the WNBA. It might put an end to it.
Either way, if you're the WNBA, you cannot afford a strike. You cannot afford a canceled season. This league doesn't have enough of a dedicated fan base to survive a canceled season. Think about what's happening with the WNBA right now. They're in the latter stages of the regular season. No one's really talking about it. Outside of winged wieners flying on the court, no one's talking about the WNBA.
Let's face it, even if I enjoy seeing Caitlyn Clark, the casuals have gone and won't return in the event of a strike. This movie has already been seen in MLB and NHL. Years of momentum are lost when there is a work stoppage or significant disruption. The distinction was that those leagues relied on their enormous fan bases and decades of history. The WNBA is using a folding chair as support. There's no assurance they'd totally recover, even with Caitlyn. Furthermore, there won't be a stampede returning to the stadia given how the league has handled her followers, labeling them as troublesome and worse. Many will actually watch the ratings plummet and blame it on karma. That is the actual risk in this situation. The fever has not just subsided as a result of Caitlyn's injury. It revealed the full WNBA and tore down the curtain. And as it has been since the beginning, the NBA's pocketbook might be the only thing holding it up when everything is said and done. You are precisely what you are for remaining here, so if you're still here, leave a goat in the comments. I appreciate you watching.